I have pressed records, and as mentioned to you before, we are going to discuss two things tonight: marketing channels and promotion. In terms of promotion, we are going to discuss briefly about promotional tools, and after that, hopefully we still have time to discuss the assessments. And please bring your questions. And this Thursday and next Tuesday are our last two sessions, last two webinar sessions, and we are going to focus on assessment, and assessment. So they are the three things that we are going to focus on, starting from this Thursday. Okay, so bring your questions, right, and appreciate your questions before Lee. And look, when you work again on the assessments, progressing your assessments, all right, this Thursday you have questions, bring that, all right, bring the questions. I like that. I like questions. Okay, all right. Now look, there are two things I'd like to discuss about the marketing channels. Okay, you can go through the learning materials later on, but there are two things I'd like to discuss. Therefore, I'm expecting that we can talk about it quickly. Marketing channel is actually about two decisions that we are the placement strategy is basically about two decisions. The first one is marketing channel decision, okay, and the second one is distribution coverage decision. Distribution coverage decision. Okay. Oh, sorry. I need to write on the white side probably. And now let's have a look at these two. So there are the two things that I'd like to discuss with you guys tonight in terms of placements. Okay. Now marketing channel is actually a set of interdependent organizations, right, that are involved in making sure the product or service are available for final consumers. Okay, in other words, if you look at that interdependent organization, I put them in bold. The reasons for that is basically these guys are not or may not be part of the manufacturing company, but these guys work in providing work to provide the product or service available for users, right? In the traditional model of distribution channel, we have the manufacturing company, and we also have the distributor, okay, and we have the wholesaler, and we have the retailer, and finally we have the final consumers or end users. Okay, so in this traditional model, if you look at that, the distributor, wholesalers, retailers are basically interdependent organizations. Okay, so they are marketing channel. Okay, now these guys, the interdependent organizations in here, are basically what we call as the marketing intermediaries or middlemen. Marketing intermediaries or middlemen. Okay, or the middleman. Okay, these guys basically helps us reaching the end users. Okay. Right, so that's basically the marketing channel. Now, the other thing I'd like to discuss about marketing channel is briefly the value that the marketing channels adds into creating value for customers. Okay, you can go through the learning resources yourself, but one of the things I'd like to highlight to you is the concept of contact in here, which is quite critical in retailing and wholesaling in Australia. If you look at that, finding and communicating with prospective buyers are quite critical. And think about a situation where if we don't have marketing channels and we need to buy, let's say, cucumber, we may need to go to Farmer John. Okay, and then when we want to buy zucchini, for instance, we need to go to Farmer Claire, okay, and so on and so forth. With that, from the consumer perspective, we are making lots of contacts, okay? And from the manufacturer perspective, in this instance, the farmer, they are also making lots of contacts, okay? But if we have marketing channel, all right, we can actually communicate through these marketing channels, such as the Woolworths or Coles, for instance. Okay, so that's the reason why we have the marketing channel in business, in our capitalism system, in our economic system. Okay, now in saying that, I would also like to highlight to you that there are some businesses who try to reduce the role of marketing channel by de-marketing channel. Okay, if they have the opportunities to reach the final consumers directly, then they are going to do it. Okay, if you look at airline industry, for instance, such as Qantas or Singapore Airlines and so on and so forth, they invite the final consumers to find the tickets by clicking their websites directly instead of going through marketing channel. Okay. Right, so they're the main ones I'd like to discuss with you in terms of marketing channel. Now we are going to discuss that a bit more. Now, before we move on to the next part, I just want to discuss with you about the distribution coverage strategy. Okay, what do we mean by distribution coverage strategy? It is actually the decision about how many resellers that we want to cover. Okay. Resellers in here includes the wholesalers and also the retailers. Okay, how many wholesalers and retailers that we want to cover? Okay, that is actually the decision that we need to make in terms of distribution coverage strategy. Okay, now can you please guys make sure that you discuss this distribution coverage concept in your placement strategy? Okay, there are three. Yes, Lee.
Just on that one, it's got the exclusive distribution. If you want to just solely reach the target market yourself, so they can only purchase your stores or your online store or whatever it happens to be, can you still choose that, or are you saying that we have to choose an external intermediary as well?
Sorry, your voice is breaking up for me. Are you asking me if you have your own stores, does it mean you adopt exclusive distribution strategy?
If that's what we would like to do, maybe you want to say, okay, by doing that, people have to buy directly from us. It may actually lift the level of esteem or status or prestige associated to the brand.
Okay.
If we're taking that approach, is that okay? Or given what you've got on this slide here, do we have to select an intermediary?
Well, actually, the exclusive distribution strategy is related to the marketing intermediaries that you select. Okay, so your question is actually about channel strategy, which is basically direct channel strategy.
Yes.
Okay, so your question.
What if we don't want any?
Yeah. If you manage it yourself, then you are actually adopting channel strategy. Okay, now. If you relate that directional strategy, the example that you gave before, let's say you decide to manage your distribution yourself, but you open as many stores as possible, hypothetically speaking, okay, because it's probably difficult for us to manage a lot of stores, given that we need to focus on manufacturing and marketing. Okay, if that happens, then you're actually adopting either selective or intensive distribution. Okay, but let's say you only have one store, right, to cover the entire distribution territory. Okay, then you adopt exclusive distribution strategy. Okay, you manage that from channel strategy perspective. You manage that directly. Okay, think about brands such as Louis Vuitton, for instance. They own their store and they have one store. Okay, then they adopt that strategy exclusive, and they also, from channel perspective, they adopt the direct channel strategy. Okay, have I answered your question, Lee?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, so again, intensive, selective, and exclusive is actually related to the number. Okay, actually related to the number of resellers that you have. Okay, now, I think the complexity of your question is, what about if these resellers, you manage the resellers yourself? Okay, if these guys are basically managed by yourself, well, again, it goes back to the numbers, because distribution coverage strategy is actually about how many resellers that you manage to cover the customers. Okay, right. So from the concept perspective, we have three the strategies: intensive, selective, and exclusive. Oh, okay. I got feedback that my internet connection is not stable, but I got backed up here. If needed, I can use my own other sources. Right? Let's see. Intensive is actually, again, as discussed before, you adopt as many wholesalers and resellers as possible. Okay, and if you look at if you go back to the previous topic, the product topic, there's a tendency that fast-moving consumer goods or consumer or convenience product or grocery product adopts this strategy. They want to cover the customers as many as possible, resellers as many as possible. Some brands like Coke, for instance, like soft drink, for instance, may also cover non-conventional stores or kiosks, such as a vending machine, for instance, to improve the distribution coverage strategy. Okay, because of the nature of the business in convenience product, actually requires them to have high volume. Right. On the other hand, we have exclusive distribution strategy, which is basically only one. We have only one store in here. Okay, and only one reseller to cover a specific territory, and in between we have what we call a selective distribution. Okay, and if we, in the case of a selective distribution, we have a few resellers in one particular, in one specific area. Now, if you look at that, if we go back to the concept of the product classification concept, there's a tendency that a luxury product, luxury brands adopt this exclusive distribution coverage strategy, and the shopping product adopts the selective distribution strategy. Okay, because their products are not purchased on frequent basis. All right. Okay, so in relation to your assessment, you need to make decision which concepts that you adopt in terms of positioning, in terms of business model, if you like. If you consider that, therefore, I think it is the reason why the assessment gives us some opportunities for us to look at from different angle. Okay, some people may say, well, this guy should be in convenience product category, so that's one of the options that you need to consider. Okay. Now, in saying that, what I mentioned before is just the tendency. It doesn't mean that all convenience product will adopt intensive distribution strategy. If you find, if you design your offering, again, that everything here should be related to your positioning strategy. If you say that you actually aim at one niche market segment, which is quite specific, quite unique, then you may adopt a different concept, such as selective distribution strategy. Okay, I gave the example before in regards to Sensodyne, for instance. In the case of Sensodyne, when they were just launched, they adopted a selective distribution strategy. They distributed their product through the dental clinics, for instance. Okay, so again, it is the tendency. Okay. All right, so that's distribution coverage strategy. Any questions about distribution coverage strategy, guys? All good? Okay.
Yeah, it's good for me.
All right, brilliant. Thanks a lot. Okay, now let's move on. Okay. Now, the second concept I'd like to discuss with you is, we discussed this briefly, is the channel strategy. Channel strategy is actually about the number of marketing intermediaries. Okay, number of middlemen, if you like, number of middlemen that you want to adopt. Okay, broadly speaking, there are two concepts, there are two strategies, there are two channel strategies in terms of adopting number of middlemen. Okay, the first one is direct channel strategy, and the second one is indirect channel strategy. Okay, direct channel strategy, if you look at this diagram, let's say if you look at the consumer marketing channel, the one in here, direct channel strategy means we adopt no marketing intermediaries or no middlemen. So this is basically adopted by companies who are engaged with the final consumers directly. Okay, so they design their business using direct channel strategy, or a lot of people call them as direct marketing strategy, because they normally set up their online business. Okay, they know set up their online business, running e-commerce. They allow the customers, the final consumers, to get in touch with them directly. They service the consumers directly. Okay. If you look at businesses such as Kogan, for instance, in consumer electronic, and now I think they expand to some other product categories, they actually adopt this kind of model. Okay. And channel number 2, 3 are basically the same. They are what we call as indirect, where we adopt at least one marketing intermediary. In this instance, for this one, these guys adopt a retailer in their distribution, in their channel strategy, and these guys have wholesaler and retailer, right? But both of them adopt indirect channel strategy, where they assign marketing intermediaries or middlemen. Okay. Now there is also another business model that adopt both of them. All right. So they're engaged with the consumers, final consumers directly. Okay. If you look at Apple, for instance, right, where final consumers or end users or consumers can buy Apple's product, well, we can go to Apple Store, or we can place the order through their online store. We can also go to JB Hi-Fi or Harvey Norman or Vodafone or Telstra or Optus or Virgin Mobile, right, to buy Apple's product. Okay, so they adopt what we call as hybrid distribution, hybrid channel strategy. Okay, right. Normally, company needs to think about when they start the business, they need to think about either direct or indirect. Okay, the hybrid may happen in the future normally. Okay, but because they may need to focus on manufacturing and marketing matters before they can think about combining those two models. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys, about this?
It's all good.
All right, brilliant. So pretty clear, yeah? So again, as a reminder, for your placements, please discuss these two concepts, distribution coverage and also channel strategy. Yeah? Okay, what I will do next is to discuss oops, I always go back there. Okay. What I'll do next is to discuss the promotion. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see it clear.
Okay, thanks a lot for confirming.
Thank you.
All right, so this is the last topic. I'm going to discuss the key concepts in here, and there are around 200 slides in this module actually, and I'm just a happy man to share any resources I have. But tonight I'm going to discuss the main ones. And at least for your assessment, you discuss the 5 tools that you're going to use that you need to analyze in your assessment. Okay. All right. So this one here is related to promotion. Okay. Now let's discuss about the promotion itself. Okay. Promotion actually comes from the word promovere, Latin word. Okay, which is basically to move forward. That's what it means. In marketing concepts. In the context of marketing, to move forward actually requires us to convince the other party. Since we need to convince the other party, then it involves communication. Okay, how can you convince the other parties if you don't communicate to the other parties? Okay, therefore, the word promotion, all right, from marketing perspective, the essence of promotion is communication. Okay, since it is in the context of marketing, so we call them as marketing communication. Okay, now that has also affected the marketing organizations. They used to label the position as promotion manager, but now they call it as a lot of companies now, showing my observation, relabel this as marketing communication manager because they value the essence of this job is actually to communicate with to the customers. Okay. Now let's look at the word communication. It again comes from the word Latin word communis. That means that means commonness. Okay. So when two parties are engaged in communication, okay, let's say we have A and B, we actually expect these two parties to create commonness. Okay, the more they communicate, the more the overlap area in here that they can create. So that actually means they are creating the commonness between the two. Okay, so A, convey the message to B, for instance, to start with. B, digest the message or decodes the message and give feedback to A. And the more they do this, the more often they do this, the larger the commonness that they are going to create. Okay, so that's the essence of communication. Okay. Right, now let's have a look at it further, okay? So we discussed about the communication, okay? We discussed how promotion, the word promotion evolves into marketing communication, okay? Now, since we also understand in marketing contexts, we have several tools that we can use to communicate to the customers. And all tools that we use should convey compelling, single, and consistent message for the customers. Therefore, we give another word in here, integrated. Okay, we can't say one thing but say a different thing using a different tool. Okay, therefore we call this promotional mix as integrated marketing communication mix. Okay, so that's how it evolves from. It used to be promotion mix. Now it is IMC mix or integrated marketing communication mix. All right. For your assessment, either use promotion mix or IMC mix. That is fine with me. Okay. Just I'm giving you a bit of a brief background in terms of why we call it as why we label it as IMC. Okay. All right. And in terms of the process, we normally start with the source or the sender. These guys have objectives in the communication process. Okay, the source in here is basically the party that has the message to convey to the target audience. Okay, and they have objectives. In marketing context, the source in here would be the marketing manager, marketing management team, the brand manager, or the salesperson. Okay, they have objectives that they will translate into message. Okay, now let's look at the communication objective. If you look at that, the communication objectives are always about three things: the awareness, image, and behavior. Okay, awareness, image, and behavior. Okay, so in the olden marketing plan, you would be able to find marketing objectives always involve sales and profit. Okay, in today's business landscape, marketers would normally design this as well, include that in their marketing plan. Okay, what awareness that they want to achieve, what awareness level that they want to achieve, what image that they want to build about the brand. Okay, and awareness. Let's look at them briefly one by one. Awareness is actually the degree of knowledge that the consumers have about our brand. Okay, that could be the brand name, that could be the benefit, that could be any other features that we like, that we'd like the consumers to understand about us. Image is actually about the word, okay, associated to our brand. Okay, the word that the consumers use to describe us. Okay, and in the case of positioning, I gave you examples, brands such as BMW, VW, for instance, or Mercedes, for instance. You have words to describe them. Okay, if those words that you use are in line with their intention, that means they hit the target. Yeah, and behavior. Okay, now behavior in here is actually about the action that consumers take, which is basically about whether they want to buy or not. Okay, so that's basically the communication objective that marketers would normally plan in their marketing campaign. Okay, and this objective will be translated, again, as discussed before, into message through advertising, point of purchase, display, and so on and so forth, right? And they're going to consider the message channel or media to reach their receiver, in this instance, target audience, or to be more precise, it is actually the intended target consumers. Okay? Now, the consumers or the receiver will demonstrate whether we achieve the outcome or not in terms of awareness, attitude change, or behavior. and they are going to give feedback whether they like the message or not, whether they want to purchase or not, whether they understand the message or not. Okay. Now, guys, just in terms of understanding these communication objectives and also communication outcome, if we look at advertising as the one of the major marketing communication tools, we know that we advertise because we do not want, not because we have the money, but we want to achieve something else, and eventually we want to achieve sales target or increase our sales. Okay, so that is the reason. That is actually the reason why we advertise. Okay, now in real life, when we place any advertising campaign, right, it does not necessarily increase our sales. It does not necessarily help us achieving our sales objective. Okay, why is that? Because advertising itself, or our major communication tool, actually helps us building what we call as pre-sale condition. Okay, pre-sale condition. The customers, ask yourself, when you watch a new advertising campaign, either Mars new advertising campaign or McDonald's new advertising campaign, the summer campaign that they just launched recently, or Samsung new advertising campaign, or Apple iPhone new advertising campaign, ask yourself, would you buy the product straight away, jump from the couch and go to the store to buy the product? Not necessarily. Okay, we may not need it. Okay, therefore we label advertising as a helping us creating a pre-sale condition. Now, this pre-sale condition actually includes these guys here: awareness, image, and behavior. So when the customers say, yes, now I'm ready to make decision to purchase, then we expect them to refer to the awareness, image, and behavior that we create. Okay, right. So that's the communication process in a nutshell. And the other thing that I'd like to highlight in terms of communication process is noise, okay, which is basically the disruption to the communication objectives that the marketing organization has. Okay, and this noise in here may affect either the source, the objective, the message, the receiver, and so on and so forth. Okay. One examples of the noise include the you can consider the competitor's message. Okay, the competitor's message. Okay, they create noise. Hey, buy me, don't buy the other one. Okay, competitor's message in here becomes a noise. Okay, and since you are analyzing snack category, arguably it is a part of snacking habit. You may also need to combat the government message in regards to reducing weight, obesity, and so on and so forth, and the other health practitioner messages in terms of being healthy and so on and so forth, right? So there are examples of noise in your product category. Okay, right. So that's basically the communication process in a nutshell. Okay, and the other thing I'd like to discuss with you is the promotional tools. Okay, there are 5 promotional tools I'd like to discuss. Some other experts include product placements. We'll discuss that briefly about it. But for your assessment, please analyze these 5 tools. Okay, you use it or not, please give comments. We are not going to use it because of what we are going to use it, and these are the specific activities that we plan, for instance, to support this brand. Okay. The first one is advertising, and advertising is one of the major promotional tool that marketers still use until now. And the next one is sales promotion, which is basically what short-term incentives. Now, the short-term incentive in here is actually to increase sales for short-term. Okay. The next one is personal selling, public relations, and direct digital marketing. Okay, so let's have at them briefly. This is the one I discussed about. When it comes to integrated marketing communication, we say that all promotional tools that we use, advertising, personal selling, and so on and so forth, should be integrated. So we call them as integrated marketing communication tools. Okay. Now, before we discuss each tool, I just want to highlight the new marketing landscape. Well, in the olden days, well, I feel like I'm getting older actually. When I started my career, we actually pretty much, in quote unquote, we were the owners of the media. Okay, so when we place advertising campaign on print ad or TV, for instance, 30-second spots on TV, for instance, or radio, 60-second spots on radio, or and so on and so forth, we are actually, in quote unquote, the owners of the media. Okay, and only certain outspoken consumers may give us feedback by calling us. Okay, but in today's business landscape, okay, there's a shift in terms of communication model because the consumers are more empowered through digital media. Okay, so we as a marketer, we are not the only owners of the media. The consumers also own the media. Okay, with the digital media, for instance, you can see that our consumers may be engaged with social media. Okay, so if previously this is the marketer, okay, this is the marketer, and we have the consumers. We send the message to the consumers, okay, and we pretty much at that time engage in what we call as the one way of communication, pretty much almost one way of communications. In today's business landscape, the consumers may communicate back to the marketers, and in fact, on top of that, they may also get engaged with the other consumers, right? And probably, more consumers may get engaged and give us review or talk about us, talk about our brand. Okay, so that is the new landscape that we are facing basically in today's business model. Okay, all right. Any questions, guys, so far?
Thank you. It's all good.
All good. All right. Look, if it is all good, I only have 5 minutes left. Can I suggest that we end this first part and we come back to the second part by clicking the same link because I am running out of time for this one. Is that okay?
Sure. I will be here waiting for you guys.
Thank you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Click the same link. Give me 2-3 minutes and click the same link. Okay.
Sure. That's cool. Take your time.